more often.
Opponents take aim and fire at President Bush's Supreme Court nominee. Mr. Bush presses Gorbachev for an arms deal and a summer summit. And Saddam admits it. Iraq has been developing nuclear weapons. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening, and it's good to be back. There are indications tonight of a nasty confirmation fight ahead for President Bush's Supreme Court nominee. Clarence Thomas today began calling on senators who have the final say on his appointment to the court. Some are already expressing doubts out loud. Chief Washington correspondent Bob Schieffer begins our coverage.
Thomas had hardly set foot in the Capitol for courtesy calls on key senators when it became clear this will be a bruising confirmation fight. Thomas himself said what nominees always say, nothing.
I think it's best that I refrain from responding to questions until the hearings.
The Democrats' leader, George Mitchell, took the first swipe, and it was a hard one.
President Bush has made many speeches saying that he's against quotas, but it is now obvious that he's against quotas for everyone but himself at all positions but the Supreme Court.
But the Republican leader, Bob Dole, said Mitchell was dead wrong.
I would say that if we sent up a black liberal activist nominee, you wouldn't hear Senator Mitchell or any of the liberal Democrats saying anything about quotas.
With that, the battle was joined. Republicans already saying Democrats will try to paint a false picture of Thomas.
They're going to try to paint him as a person who really is against affirmative action, when in fact what he's against is reverse discrimination.
And forget predictions that hardcore liberals will go easy because of Thomas's humble beginnings.
Won't be difficult for this white liberal to be against him if I think he's going to deny women their rights, if I think he's going to deny senior citizens their rights, and yes, deny minorities, the blacks, their rights as well.
Whatever Thomas himself intends to say on all of those subjects won't be known, of course, until after Labor Day when the actual confirmation hearings begin. The only question he was answered today was, he was asked, how does it feel to be in the limelight, Dan? And he said, very uncomfortable.
Bob, what's the problem on civil rights and age discrimination?
Well, it is not so much, Dan, any opinions he has written since he's been on the Federal Appeals Court. It is the time he served on the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission. Many senior citizens said he was slow to act on age discrimination suits. Many of the civil rights groups said that he acted as if he were against affirmative action. So there is where the questions on those issues will be raised.
Likely or unlikely that he will express his views about abortion?
Well, he's certainly going to be asked about it. The outlook now is that he will not say, but Senator Metzenbaum said today he is going to press on every front that he can. I think you'll even see some Republicans pressing on the question of abortion. He has written very little about that, but because he has taken such conservative views on so many issues, I think a lot of liberals think that he would not favor abortion.
Isn't it, or is it, the betting that he will actually get confirmed?
I think at this point, Dan, the betting is that he's going to be confirmed, but it's going to be very, very rough. And when Senator Mitchell, in the opening shot, accuses the president of filling a quota by appointing Mr. Thomas, that shows you just how rough it's going to be. I'll tell you something else. This is not going to sit well with George Bush. I base that not on having talked to the president, obviously, but just knowing Mr. Bush, and how he feels about things. He's not going to like this at all, and I think it's really going to rev it up and make it an even tougher fight.
Bob Chief, thanks. President Bush's spokesman is playing down any concern over the NAACP's lack of a quick endorsement today for Thomas. Now meeting in Texas, leaders of the civil rights group say they need to know more about Thomas before deciding whether to support him or fight him. Scott Pelley has our report on that.
Today, the National Convention of the NAACP is preoccupied with a crisis of conscience over the nomination of black conservative Clarence Thomas to the Supreme Court.
The fact is, we are so unfavorably impressed with his known record that we are forced to take a further look.
Looking for something that will balance Judge Thomas's strident stand against affirmative action, anything that suggests he will not abandon the views of retiring Justice Thurgood Marshall.
We ought to have another African American appointed to this position. That African American must at least adhere to some of the principles for which Justice Marshall stood.
And that was the assurance the Bush administration sought to bring to the convention today.
He certainly shares the views of Justice Marshall and the rest of the black community in believing in equal opportunity and in fairness for all.
Can a nominee who opposes affirmative action win the support of your organization?
Very difficult.
As the oldest and largest civil rights organization in the U.S., the NAACP could sway votes in the Thomas confirmation, especially among Southern Democrats. In 1990, when Thomas was nominated to the District Court of Appeals, the NAACP was neutral. Today, black leaders say they are withholding judgment, despite phone calls from the White House seeking support.
We all look alike, but we don't think alike.
From its Houston convention, the NAACP is calling for a meeting with Judge Thomas. There has been a favorable response, but no meeting date has been set. Leaders of the rights organization say it will probably be the end of the month before they decide whether to endorse or oppose the nomination. Scott Pelley, CBS News, Houston.
There is yet another new push on to try and get a strategic arms reduction treaty wrapped up. Soviet President Gorbachev is sending his foreign minister and a top military general to Washington this week to work out remaining differences. President Bush today hailed the move. Mr. Bush said it could clear the way for what he's eager to have, another superpower summit by the end of this month. Saddam Hussein claimed today that he has now given UN inspectors a full list detailing all of his nuclear arms capabilities. State Department correspondent Bill Plant has our report.
Following implied U.S. threats to resume bombing, Iraq admitted for the first time that it has a nuclear research program, but it claimed it's only for peaceful purposes. The U.S. says that's nonsense. Iraq was trying to build a bomb.
Saddam Hussein's government admits Iraq was engaged in a nuclear weapons program, contrary to previous repeated denials of the Iraqi government.
In a letter to the UN and the International Atomic Energy Agency, Baghdad disclosed what Western intelligence already knew, that it was manufacturing enriched uranium, and it listed its nuclear materials along with their locations. The administration heaped scorn on the Iraqi document, indicating it doesn't believe they've listed everything.
Obviously, this regime does not have a lot of credibility with us, and we will not be satisfied until we have had an opportunity to see everything that we want to see and that we believe is there.
The Iraqis list page after page of material for their nuclear program, which they claim was either destroyed completely or buried. The UN inspection team has already told the Iraqis that they will want to dig all that up. Dan?
Bill, what does President Bush think Saddam is up to, and is bombing a real option?
Well, Dan, the administration thinks that Saddam is just trying to get the UN off his back. An administration source says that when the Iraqis delivered the list, they actually said with a straight face to the UN, now that we've declared everything, you can stop looking. And yes, I think bombing remains a real option, not only to get the nuclear installations, but also, urged by some in this administration, to get Saddam.
Bill Plant, thanks. Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, is government red tape sealing the door now to home ownership for many working Americans? And in France, charges that racism is behind a new plan to deport illegal aliens.
It's kind of throbbing, and sometimes my fingers get stiff as well.
Today, it isn't aspirin, it's Advil for minor arthritis pain.
Advil just really helps with the pain.
Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
It's time to rediscover American values with America's favorite minivans. Now, get special low monthly payments on Dodge Caravan and Plymouth Voyager, the only minivans with a driver's minivan airbag. Or rediscover American value with savings that make them the lowest price minivans you can buy with air conditioning and automatic transmission. Either way, it's time to rediscover American value on Dodge Caravan and Plymouth Voyager. But don't wait. These savings advantages won't last.
Today, you can get Maalox strength in a snap. Maalox Plus tablets. So fast, if you take them now, they'll start working now. Maalox Plus tablets are fast stomach therapy.
The U.S. Navy had to shoot down one of its own planes today over the Mediterranean, a carrier-based E-2C Hawkeye. The Hawkeye is an early warning plane. In today's incident, a Hawkeye from the carrier Forrestal caught fire while supporting Allied relief efforts for the Kurds in northern Iraq. The 5-member crew bailed out 40 miles from Cyprus, but the Grumman-built plane kept going. A Navy attack aircraft shot the Hawkeye down for what the Navy called safety reasons. Many working Americans are finding that the dream of owning their own home is fading fast as costs climb. A presidential advisory panel today put a lot of the blame on government red tape, especially local zoning and building codes. Richard Roth reports.
The report claims that government regulation has become a huge hidden factor in the cost of housing, putting the American dream of homeownership out of reach of millions of middle and low-income families. But it was immediately criticized as simplistic. Housing Secretary Jack Kemp, who delivered the report to the president, said the advisory commission found a stealth bureaucracy affecting subdivisions across the country, choking off the supply of affordable new homes. New Jersey's ex-governor was the panel's chairman.
But to me, the most shocking finding was that we have really between 20 and 30% of the cost of housing in many areas of the country is because of these regulatory barriers.
The report recommends holding up federal aid to communities that put too many barriers, such as restrictive zoning, in the way of housing development. It urges abandoning rules that set wage scales for workers on even small federal building projects, and it calls for an overhaul of some environmental rules. Take the kangaroo rat, for instance, an endangered species found on a development track in California's Riverside County. Rules to protect the rat have directly added almost $5,000 to the cost of each home, according to the developer.
We can't make the first-time home buyer or a home buyer an endangered species to the point where he can't afford to buy a home because he has to preserve a rat or a lizard or a bird.
The commission complains environmental concerns too often override the social benefits of new housing, and that local zoning rules and layers of bureaucracy unreasonably limit development where it's needed most, in close-in suburbs where the commute is easy. But a critic says the report's focus is simply unfair.
It's one-sided. It's lopsided. It's an attack on government controls, on wetlands protection, on zoning, which mentions only the bad and doesn't say anything about the good.
And experts point out labor, materials, and financing remain the big factors pushing up housing prices, not just the cost of red tape. Richard Roth, CBS News, Los Angeles.
A study just out from the National League of Cities says American cities are stretched thinner than ever financially with declining federal help. In the past year, 80% of our cities had to raise taxes, 2/3 imposing freezing or fired workers. And for many cities, this year, it is said, looks even worse. The U.S. Army announced today that an American serviceman stationed in Panama was killed over the weekend in a drive-by shooting. It happened at the end of what Panamanian officials had declared as, quote, Friendship Week, celebrating ties between the United States and Panama. In other developments making news around the world tonight, in Michigan, the aftermath of wild summer weather. A storm strong enough to put a sun porch up a tree and cut off electricity to hundreds of thousands. The weather is blamed for 3 deaths in the Detroit area. Detroit Edison called it the worst wind and lightning storm in the utilities' history. In Indiana, for the 4th time since teenager Ryan White died of AIDS last year, someone has vandalized his gravesite. This time his tombstone was toppled. It's inscribed with his life story, including his fight against prejudice. And in Pamplona, Spain, 5 people injured during the annual running of the bulls. Most seriously hurt, a Swedish man who was gored in his thigh by a bull that broke from the pack. Stay with us now for more news, including one country's get-tough solution to its illegal immigrants problem.
Because sometimes the day ends and the pain doesn't, we're introducing new Tylenol PM. It's more than relief. It's relief for those times when you can't sleep. Tylenol PM has extra-strength Tylenol pain reliever to help stop your nighttime aches and pains, plus a gentle ingredient to help you sleep, so you can wake up refreshed in the morning. From the name you trust comes new Tylenol PM, so you can rest easy.
Sometimes I feel like I'm being pulled in a dozen different directions at once. I can't slow down. That's not an option. Stress, poor diet, irregularity. And that made me grouchy. Then I read about fiber therapy with these new Metamucil wafers. They're quick, they're easy, They taste like cookies, and while the kids have their milk and cookies, I have my fiber. And they really work. And I'm never grouchy anymore. Well, almost never.
New Metamucil wafers. Just 2 little wafers have as much soluble fiber as this bowl full of apples. Enough extra fiber to help you get regular and stay that way.
I still can't slow down, but at least now I can keep up.
New Metamucil fiber wafers. Fiber therapy for busy people.
Poison ivy, insect bites, rashes. Too many choices.
You only need one. Cordade.
Stop the itch and heal the rash with a brand doctors recommend most.
Present Arms.
Cordade, the only aid you need.
Warning, you're about to enter a jungle. Your first mistake, you brought your car. Driven to extremes on 48 Hours, Wednesday.
When Soviet President Gorbachev meets with Western leaders in London next week, he'll be going with the full support of Boris Yeltsin and leaders of 9 other Soviet republics. They all met in Moscow today and endorsed Gorbachev's strategy of seeking money and other economic aid from the West. In Yugoslavia, the breakaway Republic of Slovenia agreed to release all federal army prisoners and, for the time being, at least suspend its independence drive. This tentative agreement, negotiated with the help of European foreign ministers, lets Slovenia keep control of its borders and negotiate terms for a peaceful break from Yugoslavia. The Socialist Prime Minister of France is taking a hard line on illegal immigrants. She suggested today that tens of thousands may soon be rounded up and expelled from France. Correspondent Bill McLaughlin reports on the growing unrest that sparked this call for a crackdown.
The French say they've had enough. Scenes of black and Arab immigrants battling police in the streets have shocked the white majority and forced Socialist Prime Minister Edith Cresson to get tough. France has as many as 1 million illegal immigrants, and there's increasing pressure for a wave of mass arrests and expulsions. Civil rights activists say France created its own problem.
Violence and discrimination and ghettos and a kind of apartheid. You know, a modern one, I mean, without the laws, but with the social reality of an apartheid.
But when a white French policewoman was run down and killed by immigrants during a riot recently, the police took to the streets demanding that the government crack down. Political observers here agree that the immigration debate is changing the face of French politics. The question is no longer whether the next French government will be right-wing. The question is how far right-wing, how far anti-immigrant, and how much the rest of Europe will follow. With the socialist government slipping in the polls, moderate right-wing politicians like Paris Mayor Jacques Chirac are flirting with racism. You can't blame the French worker for being anti-immigrant, Chirac says. He has to live next door to them. Think of the noise, the smell. His standing in the polls immediately soared. And it confirmed the worst fears of the immigrants. We aren't welcomed by the French, this young man says. The police, the government, everything around us is against us. The French are afraid that what's happened to the Paris suburb of Saint-Denis could happen next door. They see their way of life undermined, and they warn that all of Europe faces the same threat.
Immigration must be handled from the point of view of the interest of the state and of France, and not from the point of view of the immigrants. The only solution is to expel them, send them back.
This illegal immigrant is refusing to board a civilian airliner bound for Africa. If Cresson gets her way, future deportees may soon discover that France will no longer take no for an answer. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, Paris.
Coming up next, Eye on America. Tonight, the secrets hidden within us all. Should science reveal them?
Hey, Larry, that you? Long time no see.
Fellas, please, I'm expecting someone.
So?
What, she thinks I'm a man of substance?
Yeah, and what are we, 3 noisy guys?
Well, no,
hey,
but I...
Kellogg's Rice Krispies is serious stuff.
You?
Yeah, we're tops in complex carbohydrates. And it's fat-free.
Fat-free?
That ought to impress her.
Well, you don't know this, lady.
Will soon.
Oh, no.
Ooh, interesting choice. Intelligent and fun-loving.
Snap, crackle, pop, Rice Krispies.
From Maine to California, people just like you win thousands, win millions. out of the blue. Miracles can happen for you. Holy cow! Publishers Clearinghouse, the house where dreams come true.
Here's news. If your athlete's foot won't go away, you could have more than athlete's foot. You could have a secondary yeast infection. That's right, yeast.
Only Mycotin cures both athlete's foot and secondary yeast infections with miconazole. Step up to the mic. Mycotin.
With the chalky taste of some antacids, it can seem that the cure is worse than the pain. Introducing new Mylanta Cherry and Cool Mint Creams, the best tasting antacids, blended creamier for a non-chalky taste.
No wonder my doctor said Mylanta.
I'm Paula Zahn. Tomorrow, the controversy over a new treatment for Alzheimer's disease. Does it work or offer false hope? Tomorrow on CBS This Morning.
If you could see what tomorrow holds for you, would you want to know? More and more people have to answer that question thanks to developments in science. In tonight's Eye on America, health correspondent Edie Magnus reports on the growing debate over genetic testing.
Plaintiff was proceeding eastbound in the left-hand lane of...
Attorney Sally Spaulding lives each day knowing that at some point her life is going to fall apart, slowly and inexorably and painfully.
They can't tell you what the first symptoms are going to look like.
Sally will get Huntington's chorea, a degenerative and fatal neurological disease that will cause her arms and legs to flail uncontrollably and eventually cause her to lose her mind.
I would really like a date, you know. This is when it's going to happen, so I know, and I can just sort of, you know, sign off or something.
The gene that causes Huntington's is inherited. Sally's father had it, and she watched him die knowing there was a 50-50 chance she carried the gene too. 2 years ago, she chose to end the uncertainty and be tested.
I was glad to know, and I've come to terms with it, and yeah, it makes a difference for the way you look at life and planning life.
The decision to know or not to know if you have a gene that will cause you to become ill is one which faces millions of Americans. Each year, tests become available for an increasing number of inherited diseases, like neurofibromatosis, a disease that produces swelling and spots on the skin. There's always a possibility a person will learn he or she isn't at risk. But what if the news about the future is bad?
What are you going to do today that's going to radically change the plan for that eventuality, except in many instances get quite depressed and mournful and have a pall of your current life?
For that reason, Dr. Nancy Wexler has refused to be tested. Her mother died of Huntington's. She has devoted her life to studying the disease, but Nancy won't risk learning the worst about herself.
It is intensely uncomfortable to live with that kind of ambiguity, but you also get used to it. For me, it was a challenge to try to not have it invade my life.
That challenge is greater than most people suspect. Not only is there emotional turmoil over what you must do with this information, but now genetic test results are being looked at by insurance companies, which is causing problems that aren't always spelled out before the test results come in.
I think it's very likely that genetic testing will create a growing class of individuals which are an underclass. I call them the...
Dr. Paul Billings documented dozens of cases of people whose genetic test results rendered them ineligible for health, life, or automobile insurance, even if they were not ill at the time. The insurance companies insist the impact of genetic testing will be small, but congressional investigators say companies are asking applicants for this information, and they predict it will be harder for people to obtain policies as genetic testing becomes more widespread.
I think that until restraints and legislation are in place to prevent people being hurt by this, I would call for more of a slowing of the use of genetic information.
My view is that one should move ahead as quickly as possible.
Dr. Joseph Schulman is part owner of a genetic testing facility outside Washington, D.C. He says the more that is known about genetic flaws and who has them, the closer we will be to preventing or curing a number of devastating diseases. Schulman feels testing is particularly important for people who want to be parents.
Every year that we delay widespread screening for cystic fibrosis in the United States, somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 children per year will be born with that disease, and it's a bad disease.
But critics also point out that doctors who have a financial stake in the clinics offering genetic tests may be pushing people to get them, a charge Dr. Schulman denies.
My morality and my position on these issues is not determined by whether or not I have a financial interest in a laboratory.
The push for widespread genetic testing will likely accelerate as scientists continue to map all of the genes that form the blueprint of our bodies. It's believed they'll reach that goal in about 15 years. In the meantime, society will have to come to terms with what to do with that information. That's a process that will come slowly, inexorably, and painfully. Edie Magnus, CBS News, New York.
And that's part of our world tonight. Dan Rather, CBS News, with a reminder of the quality newscasts still to come this evening on this CBS station. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
We bake pearls made of denture material in this blueberry pie to prove how powerfully Efferdent, America's leading denture cleanser, removes this tough stain, even in between. Efferdent, stronger than stains.
Red Lobster announces great new trios. Delicious trios you're gonna love, like our Atlantic Trio for just $6.99.
Terrific.
Or large butterfly shrimp, lobster Alfredo, and scallops.
Love it.
Or crab legs, juicy scallops, and shrimp.
Let's go.
Hurry, for a short time our great new trios start as low as $6.99.
$6.99? That's incredible.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover.
Your pets go many places during the course of a day, and you can't always protect them when they go into flea and tick-infested areas. We can. Used as directed, Heart's Blockade for dogs and cats repels and kills fleas and ticks, including ticks that carry Lyme disease. By creating a barrier, Heart's Blockade prevents these pests from living on your pets. Helping to improve your pet's quality of life is your responsibility. Helping you do that is Heart's.
Introducing the new Gripper Zipper from Ziploc, the easiest closing bag there is. I can even close it with my hands tied behind my back. Yes, the zipper is grabbing hold. It's locking. Feel it close the first time, every time. Ziploc bags with the new Gripper Zipper.
How come I have to ride in the dinghy? It's my yacht!
Just a sprinkle a day helps keep odor away.
Shower to shower body powder with baking soda to fight odor and absorbent cornstarch.
Have you had your sprinkle today?
I knew something must be wrong. I was getting these sharp pains, and sometimes pressure and bloating. I'm glad I asked my doctor. He said it was gas and recommended Mylicon.
Mylanta's Mylicon Gas. It has the best medicine for gas.
Eye on America. He offered workers a deal. Produce more, earn more. Sounded great till some may have worked themselves to death. The story on the CBS Evening News tomorrow.
This is CBS.